So welcome along yet again to Game of the Week for round number 25. St Helens, the champions, taking on the Challenge Cup winners, the Leigh Leopards. There's bad blood between these two, isn't there? Two epic games already this season. This one should also be one not to be missed. Louis McCarthy Scarsbook lighting the blue touch paper, talking once again about the tackling technique of John Asiata ahead of this game, dismissed by Adrian Lamb in his press conference. Like I say, a lot of overspill from that Challenge Cup game expected in this one. There's no doubt about it. Leigh Leopards have been the surprise package of 2023, sitting comfortably in fourth. Adrian Lamb saying they need just one more win to secure that position and have a home tie at the beginning of the playoffs. After St Helens, they will not give up hope of another League Leaders Shield win, albeit they have got quite a mountain to climb there in terms of points difference. Probably their best chance of lifting the trophy will be on point, and I think they would need to win all three of their last games to achieve that feat, but never count out the Saints for that one. Like we said, these two all season long have given us some great entertainment, none more than when they have gone head to head, of course. So let's look back at those two epic contests. 2-0 to the Leigh Leopards in 2023. Of course, St Helens will be wanting to get off the mark in this one ahead of the playoffs. Some brilliant rugby league. It was a brutal game, wasn't it? In fact, both of them were, none more so though than that semi-final. Some nice tries as well in both. And in both games, of course, Saints going in at half-time in the lead do never count out. Of course, the Leigh Leopards came back flying at home in that round 4 game and, of course, managed to get over the line in the semi-final. These two teams couldn't be closer in 2023. The last 5 in Super League, well, congratulations must go to Saints, going about their business really, really well. 5 wins on the spin now. That started all the way back at the end of July with a good 22-18 win against the Leeds Rhinos. That was followed up by a win 18-50 in another tight affair against the Salford Red Devils. Then it was then it was hosting Hull KR and they won 28 points to 6. Then off to Castleford they went. Very simple win for them there, 34 points to 4. And then last week, beating Wakefield Trinity 32-16. Many surprised by that one. And at the end of the season, Saints may look back on that as a missed opportunity to win the Shield. I think many expected them to put more points on Wakefield. And of course, that means that they continue to be behind both Wigan and Catalan in the points difference. As for the Leigh Leopards, as you can see, since Wembley, it's been a bit up and down. Some big defeats in there, of course. The Wigan Warriors 44 points to 18. Then they went to the Leeds Rhinos and got a very good win, 13 points to 6 just before Wembley, of course, that was. And then after Wembley, they went to Catalan, tough game, 30 points to 4, defeat for them there. Then, of course, the return game against Hull KR, the final replayed at Craven Park, 52 points to 10, a hammer blow there. And then finally, the Huddersfield Giants last week over those two days, 34 points to 16. How's that affected their points conceded? Well, as you can see there, 19 to Saints 14. Couldn't be closer everywhere else, but those two big heavy defeats have really hindered them in terms of their average points conceded, albeit that won't be, I think, something that Adrian Lamb will be too concerned about in the long term. The ones to watch, well, there's no doubt about it. Mark Percival is in fantastic form for St Helens, both with ball in hand and with the boot. He's been very, very good with his conversions this season. His play on the edges has been sensational. His assisting has been superb. There's no doubt about it. Mark Percival, at this moment in time, is really showing everybody why he's considered one of the best, if not the best, centre in Super League. As for the Leigh Leopards, of course, everybody must pay homage to Tom Amone, a shoo-in for the dream team in 2023. He has got potency, he's got quality, and of course he can score a try to as well. Those two absolutely ones to watch. As you can see, the bookies give this one to Saints. They're 2-9 on. That's a bit of a surprise, and we'll get into that when we look at the squads in a few moments' time. As for the Leigh Leopards, 7-2. I tell you what, if you like a little punt, that's not a bad one, is it? Let's take a look at these two teams in a bit more detail. Again, it just couldn't be closer. The try scored just 2 in it there. Very close on the average meters and the average meters per carry. Total meters there, as you can see. Tackle busts, again, going the way of Saints, which is quite surprising when you consider the potency that Leigh have in terms of Amone, Asiata, Mulhern, and Ipape, to name but a few. But yes, Saints, over the course of the season, have tackle bust far more than the Leigh Leopards. A lot of that can be attributed to their back line as opposed to their forward line for Saints. Clean breaks, very, very close indeed. The offload, as you can see there, Leigh a little bit more conservative with the offloading. We know Asiata likes an offload. I mean, he accounts for many of those 180. But, Saints pretty steady away, 216 over the course of the season. Tackles, well, both going through a similar amount, which you'd expect because both teams do tend to have the upper hand in most of the games that they play, as the league table suggests. The errors going more the way of Saints, as do the penalties. But if you recall, that was very much at the start of the season. Saints really did have a stuttering start, both in terms of errors, penalties, but also discipline. 7 yellow cards, the third highest in Super League this season for Saints. And of course, both sides have had a red card apiece this year. Neither can afford for ill discipline to hinder them in this one. It's going to be close. We've seen that across the last 2 graphics. And here's another one for you. Let's take a look at their key performers in key areas of the game. And again, there's very little between their top performers. So they're the top performers for both sides. And what's shone in terms of that video is how important Jack Welsby is to St Helens. If Leigh can nullify Welsby, they will be going a long, long way to winning this contest. And long term, it is absolutely crucial to St Helens' chances in 2023 that Jack Welsby remains injury-free. As for the Leigh Leopards, of course, well, they're sharing the love in terms of who the top performers by key KPIs in there, and it couldn't really be closer, could it? Again, when you compare and contrast the two sides on that particular video. Now, one area of the game that is always critical is up front, and this for me is a vitally important slide to go through with you all. As you can see, we have decided to omit Morgan Knowles from the St Helens stats, as he is a doubt for this game, as too is John Asiata. We've gone solely with prop forwards for the point of this graphic. We would expect all of these players to be picked and to play on Friday night. And as you can see, it's advantage Leigh. They have had, without question, the most potent front line in Super League all season long. Tom Amone is the second highest meter maker in the entire division, including backs, only second to Paul Vaughan of the Warrington Wolves. That's how mammoth his shift has been on the field all season. Of course, there's Rob Mulhern, who's also been in great form, as to Ben Nakabawa, who is, of course, going to be included in this graphic because we're not sure about John Asiata. 288 plays 194. Now, George Delaney, we know, is an up-and-coming player, but he doesn't tend to get to 100 metres too often in a game. He tends to average in and around, on a good day, 60 metres. Matty Lees, as we saw in the graphic before, does an awful lot of work in defence, and that, of course, saps energy from the tank when they need his legs to be driving them forward to give them a platform for the backs to work off. And, of course, Louis McCarvey-Scarsbrook is no spring chicken, and, of course, he'll come off the bench and do his best, but this is a more vibrant pack at the Leigh Leopards, and this really could be where the game is won and lost. I would expect Leigh Leopards to have the better of this particular battle, which for me would possibly mean that if Saints are going to do well in this game, perhaps they're going to have to strike from deep. And of course, they've got the players to do that. We know how quick Makinson is. We know Benison's got pace. We know how good Wellesby is. You know, the likes of Dodd and Lomax can also run from deep. That, for me, is going to be where they have an opportunity here to win the game. I do not see them, you know, having as many play the balls in Leigh's half of the field as Leigh will have in theirs. I do think the middle unit battle will be won by the Leigh Leopards, but I'm not discounting St. Helens because of the how much strike they've got around the field of play. No doubt about it. The second row for Saints are really going to have to step up in this. The likes of Sione, Matautia and Batchelor, they're going to have to step up in this one and put in a bit of a shift in order to help these three players to combat the Leigh Leopards forward line. Now, both, of course, teams have got quality backs that love to play off the back of quick rucks, no more so than James Roby and Edwin Ipape. These are two key men in this battle. Of course, Roby's adapted his game. Of course, Father Time is ticking. This is his last season, whereas Ipape has still got that youth and has still got that vibrancy. Let's compare and contrast. And it's an unfair thing to do because we know that James Roby is in the twilight of his career. But you've got to give credit to Roby. 22 appearances out of 24 this season. A stellar effort for him. 21 for Ipape. But look at the stats difference. You know, Roby, he's more now of a general, you know, guiding his team around the field, keeping them calm in key moments of the game. That is something that you can't take away from James Roby. He's not really the role of Edwin Ipape for the Leigh Leopards. What Ipape does bring to the Leigh Leopards is tries. I mean, 8 tries this season. It's a great knock from him, and he can score them from anywhere. He does like to get on the back of the Lachlan Lamb kicks. You know, we know that he can go over close to the line. That was something, of course, that James Roby has done throughout his career. Less so now, like I say, in the latter stage of his career. But Edwin Ipape is clearly a massive threat to Saints in terms of 4-pointers in this one. Tackle bus again, 83. He is an absolute animal, isn't he? Edwin Ipape. He knows how to get through a line. And of course, when he does get through a line, as we saw, I mean, Warrington comes to mind when Warrington went to the Leopards. Then, if you recall, the run that Ipape did for the Gareth O'Brien try, a really good example there of, you know, if you give Edwin Ipape some space, he will go through the line. James Roby, of course, has done that a couple of times this season, but has not got the speed and agility no more that Ipape does bring. Both of them doing similar tackles, dummy runs, more so for Ipape, errors more from Ipape. You'd expect that because, of course, he does have to get his hands on the ball and he does try to make things happen, perhaps more than Roby. Roby a bit more conservative, all about game management, as opposed to Ipape, who quite frankly just wants to execute on every play. Carries very similar, and because of his line breaks, because of his tackle bush, yes, Edwin Ipape, 8.8 metres to 5.7 for James Roby. Now, there's no doubt about it. If one of these two players shine, that could have a massive bearing on the outcome of this game. That's why it's such a key battle. Which one would you go for? Would you go for the astute playmaker that is James Roby, or would you go for the dynamo, the off-the-cuff player of Edwin Ipape? Both have got qualities. Both can turn a game. This one is going to be fascinating. And of course, another fascinating contest is going to be between Johnny Lomax and Lachlan Lamb. Lomax never, of course, been man of steel, which is an absolute travesty, and Lamb absolutely up there in terms of that this season, both in terms of man of steel and the Albert Goldthorpe, albeit Bevan French at this moment in time does look to be in the box seat with regards to that. But these two men have had great seasons, as this graphic shows. Both have played all 24 games, and look how close it is. You know, more tries going the way of Johnny Lomax, more assists going the way of Lachlan, and these two really do have a massive say in how well their respective sides play. The tackle bus going the way of Lamb. I have to say, I think Lamb on the left edge all season long has played really, really well indeed and has punched the line. But he knows when to punch the line, but he also knows when to pass. He's had a really good season as Lamb, and thank the Lord he's going to be in Super League again next season. Clean breaks going the way of Lamb. Both again going through similar tackles. This surprised me when I put it together, the attacking kicks. But then again, when you look at it, I mean, Johnny Lomax does tend to leave a lot of the kicking duties to Lewis Dodd. Whereas, of course, Lachlan Lamb, he does like a grubber tip. We talked a moment ago about Ebony Papa. He's been the beneficiary of that a couple of times already this season. Perhaps he will be again on Friday night. Both very similar error count, but quite low when you consider their roles in the team and how many rounds we've now played in Super League. It just goes to show how good these two players actually are. Similar carries, similar meters. There's no doubt about it. Again, this is a key battle. Who comes out on top? We saw Johnny Lomax and St. Helens play Warrington Wolves with a depleted squad, and Lomax on both occasions absolutely shone, both at the Halliwell Jones and at the Totally Wicked Stadium. Even though there is a real battle that I think they're going to lose in the forward pack, Johnny Lomax sometimes doesn't need to have a platform to actually go and win a game, as he's proven time and time again. Lomax, absolute quality. And St. Helens are going to need him to be on his game, as well as Jack Wellesby, if they're going to take this one against the Leigh Leopards. It is going to be fascinating. Now, as always, on Tuesday night on Super League Raw Weekly, myself and Greg discussed the game of the week, St. Helens against Leigh Leopards, and this is what we had to say.
Thank you very much. Massive game. I just think Rugby League should be the winner on Friday night. This has got the potential of being one of the games of the season. I think there's so much bad blood over that semi-final. I think both teams are going to be at it. You wouldn't want to be John Asiata for anyone's business. Will Adrian Lamb leave Asiata out of this one?
No. Not in a...
Well, rumour has it he's picked up a knock.
Well, that will be the only thing that keeps John Asiata out if he has picked up a knock.
Yeah, he's took a knock. Rumour has it. Don't know if Steph knows more. He'll put it in the chat by all means.
If Asiata's fit, he will play.
Yeah.
Because that is what will wind the St. Helens players up. You know, those tackles below the waist around the legs that are upsetting the Saints players and the fans so much.
Yeah.
Opposed to the ones that set people's heads off.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing wrong with his tackling. Absolutely nothing wrong at all. It's a deflection against the fact that Saints weren't good enough to beat Leigh in the semi-final. I think there is bad blood in there. And you know what? I think Leigh are going to win this.
Yeah, go on. Which way? So what are you going by?
I'm going to go 1-8, Leigh.
I've got exactly the same.
Here's my prediction.
Go on.
Golden point.
Going golden point.
Golden point for Leigh.
I'm going to Leigh 1-8. Go on.
Simply because I think Saints will be that wound up and that eager, that desperate to get one back over on them, that it'll counteract them. And I think Leigh I've been thinking about, this is the one game I've been focusing on all week, and I just got this feeling that I have a feeling the semi-final Leigh would win, and I get the feeling that they'll win this. I really do.
I had no doubt in the semi-final that Leigh would
win. It was
written in the stars, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But this one, I just think maybe the emotion. I think a Saints player could get sent off on Friday. If Asiata plays, I think a Saints player could go.
I wouldn't be surprised if Asiata gets sent off.
Nah, I don't think you would.
No, I wouldn't. I say not going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised because of what's gone on. But I'm with you. There will be a red card in this game.
I think there's a real high probability there could
be. There'll be a couple of yellows, and I think there will be a red card in this game.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of love in the game in terms of Leigh. Quite a few going Leigh's way. Equally, quite a few going Saints' way as well. Biggest score thus far, Saints by over 20. I think that's a big shout by Kev Worrell, I have to say. I don't see 20 plus. Alex Sharp saying 18 plus as well for Saints. So a couple going big for Saints. Nobody's going that big at the moment for Leigh. But yeah, this should be
Leigh won't win. Well, he might do, but I can't see Leigh winning 18 plus.
No, I can't. Schofield's gone 9-17 to Saints. He's gone
Has he?
9-17. Yeah, so
I had a feeling for the semi-final, and I've got a feeling for this. I think the desire for Saints to get one back on over on Leigh will make them too eager, too overexcited, make mistakes, bring desperation factor in. That's the way I see it. And if Leigh play the game, if Leigh play the steady game that they've played, I can genuinely see them winning.
Rugby League should be the winner. So to recap,
I do hope so.
I think so.
Well, let's hope so. Yes, Rugby League should be the winner. Now, to confirm, the Fans Forum votes have been counted and verified, and the Fans Forum, believe it or not, have gone St Helens 18 plus, Schofield 9-17, the Saints, and both myself and Greg see this as a Leigh Leopards win. 1-8. What's your view for the to see that graphic again? Do visit Super League Raw Fans Forum Facebook page, and of course we will publish that as always. But those are the round 25 predictions for this week. Now, let's take a look at the two squads. Starting off with St Helens, and like we say, they really have having to do it really tough, albeit the 5 in a row. You can't take it away from them. We know Wellsby a real fullback. We'd expect Meganson and Benison to be on the wings. Who will partner Percival? No Hall, of course. No Hapawati either in this one. But look at that. Wesley Brunez, who has been linked with the Warrington Wolves this week. Wellens very keen to keep him at Saint. Will he make his debut in this one? That's one to be keeping an eye on, albeit I would expect Davis to be in the centres with Percival based on that squad. Lomax and Dodd, of course, in there. Roby and Mbai will be the rotating hookers. Lees will more than likely be partnered by Delaney if Knowles is not fit. In the press conference prior to this game, Wellens saying that Knowles was at getting a scan on an injury. He is touch and go, of course. If he does make the game, I would expect he will start at prop. However, will he be fully fit? If he doesn't make the game, more than likely it will be Delaney and Lees, and big minutes will need to be done between those two and, of course, Louis McCarthy Scarsbrook. And, of course, as we said earlier on, he's no spring chicken, and that's why Matautia and Batchelor will really need to step up for St Helens in this game if Knowles does not make it. It's going to be fascinating. Of course, they've got the advantage of James Bell. Bell has been outstanding this year for Saints. He's almost making that loose forward position now his own. It really is. Is Morgan Knowles set for a shift to the front line? That's a question that we asked on Super League Raw Weekly this week. But yeah, will they have much on the bench, Saints? Well, no, but of course they won't be too worried about that. Like I said earlier, I remember Warrington going there to the Totally Wicked Stadium when on paper everybody thought that, Warrington were going to steamroll the Saints. And of course, they didn't. They stood up brilliantly well, did the youngsters of St Helens. And of course, that night, Johnny Lomax was simply sensational, and he will need to be so again this weekend. As for the Leigh Leopards, well, it's an unchanged 21-man squad that went up against the Huddersfield Giants. Great to see, of course, Frankie Holton back for them. Of course, Gareth O'Brien, we would expect to be at fullback. On the wings, Tom Briscoe and Josh Charnley. But Josh Charnley, again, has picked up a knock. And Adrian Lamb saying he may not actually make this one. Charnley, of course, will want to. He'll want to finish the season as leading try scorer. But at this moment in time, there's a big question mark over whether Josh Charnley will be playing in this game. If he doesn't, well, it's going to be interesting to see who they put on the wing. Maybe Wardle will go out there. That might be an option for them. Who knows? But that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. In the centres, of course, will be Oliver Gildart and Zach Hardacre. They'll be coming up against, of course, the informed Mark Percival, who we've already given a big shout out to. In the halves for them, Joe Mellor. It won't be Joe Mellor, will it? What am I saying? It will be Ben Reynolds who will start this game, and Lachlan Lamb. Ben Reynolds, of course, linked with a move to Featherstone Rovers at the end of the season. He's had a great year. His kicking has been on point, over 80%, as you saw earlier on. He is in good form indeed, and has been so all year long. We know Lamb is going to be massive for them. Then the big man Amone, unbelievable. Over 3,000 metres this season. Absolutely sensational. Mulhern and Ipape, that front row should be frightening the life out of St Helens. It is that good this season. In the second row, well, of course, they've got bags of riches there. Jack Hughes, Kai O'Donnell, absolutely would expect O'Donnell to start the game. Frankie Holton, maybe, if, of course, Asiata doesn't make the game, maybe Holton will play in maybe the second row. Hughes might actually feature at loose forward. Who knows? They can move those players around. But when you actually look at this team, you know, you look at these two teams side by side, you would be happier, certainly maybe halfway through the season, if you're Adrian Lamb. But it's such a small squad at Leigh Leopards. They've been doing it all the way through the season. Maybe fatigue could also be a factor in this game. Now, of course, Leigh will want to keep momentum going. They've got, of course, Wigan coming up at the last game of the season, the final battle of the Borough. They will want to beat Saints. They will want to put a marker down for playoff rugby league. Who's to say that they won't do that? But like I say, at this moment in time, just based on past performances and the squads at each coach's disposal, we go back to what the bookies are saying: 7-2 for the Leigh Leopards. I have to say, I think that is very generous indeed. But never count out the Saints. One man who never counts out the Saints is their coach, Mr. Paul Helens.
You know, the more of those types of games that we can get in Super League, the better. You know, we have a great rivalry with Wigan. You know, that sells itself. Obviously, the whole rivalry with Warrington as well is grown and grown over the years, and you know, to build a similar rivalry with a club like Leigh would be excellent too. So, you know, we're looking forward to the weekend. You know, the challenge that presents us, and you know, the atmosphere that you know it will generate. And like all good clubs, you want to play in front of a lot of fans, and you want the best atmospheres, and I think we'll see that on the weekend.
It's obviously going to be a tough game. They've found some form in the last couple of weeks, and you know, coming off that semi-final loss to us in the Challenge Cup, that'll certainly motivate them. It won't be what drives them this week. You know, it's about staying and holding that first position for them. But for us, it's about making sure that we go there with our strongest team, and again, you know, keep our performance up following off after the Huddersfield win.
So they're the two coaches ahead of the game, of course, both very respectful of each other's performances this season. This game should be dynamic. It should be brutal. We should see sensational skill, and let's hope for some brilliant tries. Hopefully it's a fantastic attendance at the Totally Wicked Stadium. And if you're not going, then put your feet up this Friday night live on Sky Sports. It's St Helens against the Leigh Leopards. It's the third game of the season. Can St Helens strike back, or will the Leigh Leopards go 3-3? One thing's for certain, it's one not to be missed. And if you're not excited enough by now, maybe our trailer will just tip you over the edge. We'll see you next week for round number 26's Game of the Week. Over to you guys. Make it a good one. If you've enjoyed Game of the Week, please make sure that you like, comment and subscribe on our YouTube channel. If you've not joined our YouTube channel already on Super League Raw Fans Forum, then please do so. It's the only place where you can see every video that we produce, the replays of Super League Raw Weekly, In the Sheds, and of course, Game of the Week, as well as Team of the Week, Tries of the Week, and all the usual fare. We look forward to seeing you this time next week for more Game of the Week analysis. But for now, from us here at Super League Raw, enjoy your Rugby League this weekend, and we'll see you live Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, for Super League Raw Weekly on the Fans Forum Facebook page.